This one's titled Avocado Connect, an update for Avocado and Salesforce. So we're going to try to just give you guys some information about a few things we thought was pertinent. If you have other things that you would like to hear about at our user groups, please let us know. And we'll be happy to make sure that we talk about them. Meeting will be recorded as always. We will make it available to everyone. If you have questions, please use chat or raise your hand. There's enough TechShare people or Avocado champions, I think, to answer anyone's questions. And we'll have a question and answer period at the end if you didn't ask during the presentation. So for today, we're going to really quickly go over some Salesforce summer release features that we thought you might be interested in. Some of them are not as, some of them are a little underwhelming, but they're still, we'll whiz through them quick. There's still, features that are there that I hope everyone's aware of. And then we're going to talk about some Avocado features that were released that you may or may not be all aware of, but we thought that it was timely to make sure you're aware of them with camp in the summer season. And we wanted to make sure that you're aware of some of the forms and reporting features that were released so that we're making sure everyone's using them if they need to use them. Rachel's going to give that piece. We're going to also ask Rachel to update us on the Salesforce storage initiatives we had in Q2, where we are, what we've completed, what we're continuing to do. And then a little bit about the work in progress over the coming few months. So in the April user group, I believe, or release presentation, I believe, we discussed some of the things for that were being released in summer 25 release. This was just the timeline of the release. Everyone should have it by now. And we talked about some of the more technical things that you had to consider, including Salesforce was auto-enabling ICU, which we didn't have any issues with it, whether it was enabled or disenabled or not enabled, but we did make a patch to it to support the latest API version that we needed to support. I believe there's a few people who still aren't on that, but it really doesn't affect you because we don't use any of the enhancements / out of country codes that you guys would benefit from with this being turned on. So to dive into some of the announcements and some of the features that have been recently put into your system, we've talked about Go before. I don't know if you remember or were part of those discussions, but it used to be called Sales Cloud Go, and it really allows you to see one spot where go to one spot and see, discover the features of a cloud, discover how to set it up, and it really just walks you through everything. In the past, you'd have to do Trailhead, you'd have to read the installation notes, and those are all still there and being updated, no problem. But Go is obviously the replacement for that because they've renamed it now from Sales Cloud Go to Salesforce Go, and we're hopeful that it's going to you're going to start to see these Go initiatives in every area of Salesforce. So a great thing to look at. Most people here do have some Sales Cloud licenses, so they should take a look. And if you don't, and you're looking to enable foundations, you also get this. So we're excited about that. It's well done. And hopefully you guys can take a look if you're trying to learn. It's just really an enhancement to the Trailhead functionality. They've added the ability to refresh individual widgets on a dashboard. Small little thing, but it's still there. And it's a quality of life thing. For anyone who's had a report-intensive dashboard and refreshed the whole dashboard and waited 2 minutes, this allows you to just refresh the little pieces. And I know some customers are doing some pulling in of data from outside sources, so this would ease that load, so to speak. Again, a lot of small things in the admin section here. We'll get to some better things in a minute, but these are important enough to note, I think. You can now designate an org-wide email when people subscribe to a report. You can set that up in the settings, and you can also designate a worldwide email that the subscription to a dashboard comes from. So rather than me setting up something for my team, and then every time they have a question, they're going to start asking me about that report's questions. I can set up an Oregon email that would they could then reply to, and it would go to a department head or something like that. So helps you streamline efficiencies. They've added another small quality of life piece to list views. It used to be if you had a lot of list views, you had to scroll and look for the one you're looking for. Now you can search, and it's just really a quality of life. It's a small little feature, but it'll make things a lot easier as you go through it. Andrew seems to like that one. Where they spent most of their time in summer, though, is in the flow and Agentforce, but I'm going to get to that in a little bit. Flows, there's a lot of enhancements, and they're very exciting. Some of the flow enhancements that are worth mentioning, and there's a lot of them, are testing flows for error handling. So you can start to create tests, and we're seeing that this is like a foundational piece, which we'll get into in a little bit when we get to Agentforce. They appear to be using, and they're doing a good job of this, being Salesforce, using the functions across different clouds. So this is a good thing for us. So you can set now, inserting data, testing, what will happen if certain things come back in with unexpected results. You can start to put in custom failure messages and test your flows in a lot more robust manner. This is another quality of life thing, but for those who have ever added an email action to a flow, it's a lot more user friendly for people now. So it used to be, it wasn't hard, but it was all kind of hidden in this list that you had to kind of search for what fields you wanted to update. And now it's a little more WYSIWYG. It's not quite what you see is what you get, but it's a little more. And we can see where they're going with this, where it's going to become richer and richer for people to use, which is a good thing for everyone. Screen flow preview sizes. So when you're creating screen flows, I know we're doing quite a bit of that, and we're talking about doing more. It has default preview sizes where you can have like a full width lightning page, a quick action window, a phone app, a utility bar, and you can start to test a little more to see how the flow you're creating is going to look across these different ratios, screen ratios. This has been coming a long time. We've heard it. We keep being told not to use the old workflow approval processes and just use flows, but they've actually just, I'd say they've orchestrated a more user-friendly way to create an approval process in a flow. So it's more 90% built for you, just kind of drop and click now. So a lot easier. So if anyone's still using approval processes, flows now a lot more mature in that area. Debugging flows. You can now, when you're debugging a flow, see the values that it's outputting. You can also pass in values. So if you're doing nested or subflows or actions out of a flow, it's a lot easier to, rather than rerunning flows and trying to trigger them manually. You can do it a lot easier through this interface now. And they did overhaul the flow debugging. So for anyone who's copied it out to a notepad and trying to figure out what the debug is, it's going to be a lot friendlier now, where you can expand and contract these sections, and it'll show it all in an editor style. You can still export it out to a flat text, but it'll give you a lot more friendly debugging experience now. So that's great for people creating them, because quality of life. For screen flows, they've created these tiles that make it a lot more friendly to do things like, hey, vote up, down, or whatever it might be. They've also allowed an icon uploader. So you can literally create like an image or an icon that you upload, and then those tiles just become like a thumbs up, thumbs down, or whatever it is that you want the icon to be. So that's nice. More control over field layouts. So they've added, the ability to make it look more visually pleasing by, creating different widths and styling. You used to have to be a little more technical to get into that. Now it's through an interface. And then they added a feature, a more enhanced feature. It's in beta right now, but file upload enhancements where you can upload files in a lot easier way. Caitlin, she's been waiting. I see a lot of smiles from Caitlin, so I'm not just trying to focus on her. This is good. It's usually a good indicator because she's in there all the time. I like to see those smiles. So there's a lot more to flows. And if you haven't played around, I urge you to. It's very, 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 very powerful. And we're seeing more and more functionality being done there. And our developers are using it more and more rather than writing native backend code, which is a good thing. I wanted to talk about, this is part of the summer release, but I just wanted to give a quick update on Agentforce 3.0, which was released on Monday. Had a chance to go and check it out and, kick the tires, so to speak, yesterday at the Toronto World Tour. And, there's a lot of great things that are coming out of Agentforce. I realize there's been a lot of challenges and a lot of, and rightfully so, we want to step back and just wait to make sure that this is going to be good for us. But everything that they've promised, them being Salesforce, has really come to pass. And we're seeing it mature more and more, and all the things that you need to make this successful are starting to come into focus. So that's a good thing. It's a really good thing. When we did our first trial of it, we put one of our senior developers on it, and we didn't get quite the results we were expecting to get. I'll just give you the Cole's notes of that, the high level. We created an agent that was meant for the customers in the portal, and we could make it work really well, but it was kind of like held together by a house of cards. As soon as the data changed, like the demo was great, but as soon as the data changed, it didn't perform the way we wanted it to perform. So it just wasn't ready for production. I think with some of the things that they've changed and matured, it's getting a lot closer. So they've released a couple things, and I'll just walk you through some of the things that I thought would make sense to share with you. They released a command center, and that gives you visibility into what's going on. What I found very interesting is, for those that know what Agentforce is, it's basically an AI, an agentic engine that allows you to ask questions, and then it'll take the appropriate action on these questions. And Salesforce has been using it. And it was interesting watching how Salesforce themselves are using it for their 30,000 plus interactions a week, because they didn't just roll it out. They took a percentage of their calls or their chats and then put it through the agent and watched every single response with those 10, that 10% to make sure it was set up right, it was working the way they needed to work, and that the agent wasn't just going to frustrate their customers. So that's a good approach, but that takes effort. Now, the payback, I think, is there, and there's a whole ROI on this, but long story short, you don't want to just do it. You want to make sure that we're doing it in a very controlled manner. So Control Center gives you some of the sight into that. How are people actually responding to this? How are the customers? Do they feel like it resolved their question? When you get into pricing, which we're going to get into in a few more minutes, how does that affect your pricing? Are they actually taking actions, or are they just having a conversation and people are frustrated leaving and not answering whether it solved their problem? There's all these things to consider. One thing that is obvious to me, and I hope it's obvious to everyone else, is it's not going away. Digital workforce is there. It's going to continue to be there, and it's going to continue to evolve. So we want to make our people better, our customers, your staff better. So, we need to take it seriously and start to look at how we're using it. It also implemented a testing center, and the testing center is quite impressive as well. So it allows you to not just, before you would go, like we used to test these things, is publish it or preview it and then try all these different types of questions. Now they built in, as you're trying it, you can like add your question to the trial. Expect these are the results I expect out of it, right? So it makes it very easy. And what's really cool is they're using Agentforce to generate these, which is really cool if you think about it. So it's kind of neat to see it progress, and it's getting to a point where we're going to have to start to have some serious conversations with our customers about the value it brings. So more to come on that. Agent exchange is also growing, and we're seeing a lot more apps. People are, like App Exchange has all kinds of apps. Agentforce is just growing tremendously. So we're seeing that there's pickup not just within Salesforce, which is a good sign. There's other supporting organizations, and TechShare hopes to be one of those very, very shortly, but that's coming soon. One of the concerns that we hear from you guys and from a lot of people is pricing, because it does come with a price tag. And I'm very pleased with the way Salesforce has been dealing with this pricing concern, because they're having the conversation with us, and they're having it straight on. They're not trying to hide it, and they're pointing out that their customers are explaining that we can't scale this. We tried a trial and it costs us this much money. If I times that by 1,000, it's not cost justifiable. Right? So there are a lot of talks happening. One of the things they did a few months ago was up till a few months ago, it was only $2. This was the only pricing model, $2 a conversation. They now allow flex credits. And what flex credits allows you to do is you don't get charged any money if no action's taken. If an action's taken, it roughly equates to about 10 cents, which is a lot more cost justifiable if you can dial in those actions, right? These are the actions that are important to me as an organization that runs a facility or a fitness facility or something like that. Here are the 3 things I want it to do. Here's the other things I want it to pass off to a human. So there's a lot of options here, and I think we're still trying to figure out what is the most important ones, and how do we make it that give you high value for low cost. So we're working through that. They do also have another one that's not on this screen, which is an employee unlimited edition. So what we're talking about and what we're seeing is it's not just about allowing your customer to have an agent experience. Maybe it's about your staff asking, hey, how do I handle Matthew? He seems to be really rude to me, or whatever. That's a bad example, but what can I offer Matthew? What would his family appreciate, whatever, and look at my records and say, well, he seems to like swimming, so maybe you should do this, or whatever it might be. So giving unlimited, I think, is a really good option for staff. But with all that, like Data Cloud is definitely under the underlying pin that we've been trying to make sure we get our head around. And, it's not going to be just pointed at all of Avocado or all of our data in Salesforce. It's going to be very, very prescriptive. It's going to be, hey, these are the pieces of data we want to pull into this, because even though your data is in Salesforce, you still have to pull it through Data Cloud and pay on a consumption basis. So that's the piece that we're still making sure that we're not going to get a huge bill at the end of this about consuming all the data in Salesforce. So more to come on that. I think we're going to do a very specific Agentforce session where we show you what we've done so far and also talk about what the future brings. That's the topics I wanted to cover in the time I had. Rachel, I don't know if you wanted to share your screen now, or if you want me to share.
It doesn't matter. I'm gonna walk through it in Salesforce and through Avocado. Okay. So I'll probably just take over sharing if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So after our last release, it was very feature heavy. We had a lot in it with pre-registration, waitlist automation. There was a lot of tasks. So we all kind of met internally and just realized that while we kind of tacked this on towards the end, everyone might not have remembered that we said it. So with camp kind of started or starting for some of you, we wanted to make you aware that we made quite a few changes to reporting in this release, specifically our avocado menu reports. So we just wanted to make everyone aware that these do exist and that you do have this functionality if you are on the newest release. So in programs and camps, in my reports, we have added a roster report. So what your roster report allows you to do is to pull a report very similar to what we use for class lists, but at a higher scale. So instead of just pulling Bobber's swim lesson on Monday at 3 p.m., I have the ability to pull an entire program at once, or I have the ability to pull my entire camp division at once. So maybe throughout the year, for summer camp this year, you just want one binder of every kid that's in camp. Think of it as like your master list for your reports. So that's what this roster report was designed to do, is to really give you that consolidated, high level overarching view. You do have the same fields as your class list. So gender, emergency contact, medical, which pulls from the contact, as well as group assignment if you use it. And you do have the ability to display prompt responses as well. So those will appear towards the bottom of your report, and they are consolidated for this report. So previously on the class lists, we do split them out so that you're keeping one person's data per prompt group per page. For this one, we've actually combined them. So you see one prompt group with everyone's responses per page, and it kind of just bleeds into the next page so that you're not printing tons of sheets of paper for your one binder. So that's kind of how overarching this is going to work. When you generate the report, you're going to see the contact and then all of their registrations. So I can see, for example, Andrea Butler registered in a bunch of different swimming lessons. We've got 3 Fridays, a Monday and a Wednesday. And then I can see the same with Elizabeth as well. So this will show you all of their registrations based on whatever the filter criteria is that you pass through. And then you do also have the ability to export this to Excel. So if you want to do some additional data manipulation, you want to print it maybe in a different way than what it prints through ours. Maybe you don't need one specific prompt response, but you maybe need one answer out of it. You can take that into Excel and manipulate the data there. So that is our roster report. The other report we made quite a few changes to is our attendance list, and attendance list with quantities. So the changes we made for this were to give you the flexibility to pull in special resources. So in speaking with a lot of you, we know that you use special resources for things like busing, before and after school care. So when you're signing kids in or out, you need to know what bus you're putting them on. Maybe their parent isn't picking them up or guardian. I need to know which specific bus I'm going to put them on. So I'm going to select my special resource. We'll do contact phone, barcode, and birth date. And for this one, I'm actually just going to grab a specific instance. And we give you the option of, if you only want sign in, you only want sign out, you want a sign in and sign out, which is what we currently have, or if you want a none option. So the none option will give you that column still to sign, but it won't say sign in or sign out. So you can use these when you're traveling. Sometimes you're going off site, you're going to a park for the day. You need that copy of that attendance list so that midday you can do your checklist. That's something we envision you being able to use this for. I'm going to do sign. We'll do sign out. So when I generate this response, you can see this one's just a single day occurrence, but it does kind of wrap. If you get into having too many columns, you'll see it pushed down underneath. But it does give you, again, all those details of whatever custom fields you want to put in, as well as my prompt response for my special resource. So I can see this one is going to this bus, this child's going to this, and then I can sign them out as part of that list. And that same functionality is on the attendance list with quantities as well. If you use attendance determines billing, where you have those quantities set. A couple other just quality of life things. We alphabetize this list to make your lives easier. before we were kind of going off of priority of when we built the reports. So this is all alphabetized. In the attendance list, we did set it up so that it is contact last name alphabetically descending, then first name. So just kind of aligned that with our other reporting. We did also give you the option to see form status when you look at registrations in the Avocado menu. So I went in, I had registrations, and I added a form after the fact. So I know that none of my children in my camp have filled out this form. So now we've given you visibility into who is not complete, so that when you click on that email form reminder, you're going to know exactly who got that email. So it's just an easier way to make your lives a little more efficient when you're sending batch emails, so you know who it's going to. It also allows you to just send that single email form reminder if you only have one child who's on the list. Dave?
If you have a variety of forms that you might need them filling out, will it pull like each form individually?
So this is just overall status.
Okay,
so one complete. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and that just redirects you to the portal, to the link you specify. So either my forms, or you can go to my programs where you would see anything in orange that's incomplete, so they can fill it out there. Perfect. So those are kind of the form enhancements we wanted to talk about. Matthew, do you have the slideshow back up? If you're able to share the presentation. If not, I can pull it up quick.
I got it. I just got to click the button.
Thanks. Okay, and then continuing on, last we spoke, we talked about how we are working towards storage reduction in Avocado. So we have a couple moving pieces. I'm going to try to keep these high level because some of them are a little more technical, but end goal is also ultimately reducing how much we're storing in Avocado. So what we've done so far that you'll see coming out in the next release is that we've completed the mirroring of the PSI to OI object. So our end goal for this is to ultimately remove it. We're doing a phased approach. So what we're doing is taking the data that's currently stored on there, mapping it to other objects so that we can safely remove that in the future. So we have completed the mapping to other objects piece of that work. So that is done. We've completed the ability to lock down orders. So this task is complete. It'll be coming out as part of the next release, where orders after a certain set of time or orders that are archived are not able to be modified by staff. So we heard this from a lot of you that before we delete any data, you need to make sure that staff don't go in and accidentally reschedule or make a change on that order. So we have created the ability to lock it down. This also gives you the flexibility to, I know no one needs to be touching an order from 3 years ago, lock out those orders so that someone can't make that change. We did also give some flexibility into overrides if your finance admin needs those. So that piece is complete. We've also completed our proof of concept for pulling out the GL master data and getting it into a reportable system for you all. So we've completed that. We're just working on making sure that we have all the reports that we imagine you're needing. We've got our posting report, and we're just working on a couple other financial reportings. So for that, in terms of what's coming next, we're continuing on our plans, starting to work more on the implementation phase of this. So continuing to work to make sure we have all those reports, making sure that when we do archive that data, it's going to be in a way that if you need to go get it, you can find what you're looking for. We're going to do the testing of the removal of the PSI to OI object. So provided that that passes our testing, we'll be deprecating or removing that entire object, which for most of you is about 7% of your storage right now, 7 to 10. So going to free up quite a bit of space. And then once that is successfully removed, we'll populate any historical fields that we need to the new object, and then we'll be getting rid of all of those PSI to OI items for historical. And then finally, we're going to be looking at moving those GL master data out. So we know that for most of you, that's anywhere from 35 to 45% of your storage. So we'll be working with you to figure out what days and dates and what types of orders it is that we're moving out of the system so that GL master, that financial data, is not taking up a significant portion of your storage. So that's what's upcoming for storage for our Q3. And then just high level, what we're working on, what you can expect to see in the next release and/or two is we're adding the ability to support multiple criteria in one price level. So my senior and my youth have the same program rate. I can display a senior and youth rate instead of having to create two different price levels for them. We're updating holds to support not allowing member-only program. So contacts with member-only programs to go on hold. If you have to have a membership and you have an upcoming swimming registration that requires you to have a membership, you now will have the ability to restrict that person from going on hold. We're creating custom Lightning Web components for the portal homepage. So this will give you kind of a dashboard type of view where you can see things like your upcoming registrations, your upcoming bookings, payments that have just come out or going to be coming out, as well as it gives us the flexibility that if there's something additional you need in the future, we can add a custom component for specific orgs. So that'll be coming out as well. And then finally, we're in the early stages of redoing and reframing our membership flow. So looking at how we can better support everyone's kind of membership structure through this. So a lot of things with prerequisites, things like syncing your payment dates, adding some additional more complicated hold logic to that. So that's going to be an area we're looking to improve towards the end of the year.
Thank you. Is there any questions? So for the summer, more to come on this, but we are hoping to do pit stops over the summer months, like we did for the reporting pit stop. That seemed to work well. We're just working on the logistics of that. If there's any thoughts or ideas on what kind of pit stops you guys would like, meaning there's technical resources there to be able to share with you or fix things right in that pit stop. Yes, Nick.
Will these slides be provided? Or will the recording be?
Both, I think, right, Laura? Yeah. Okay. So Laura will send out a link with this presentation and a link to the video.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, if there's nothing else, we're here. But oh, Caitlin, yes.
Sorry, I have a couple questions that I was just like jotting down. I didn't realize we were in question period. Sorry. The PSI OI field, object removal, is that going to remove historic data as well? And that gets mapped on to, so we will retain that data still, like long term. Yes. Nothing kind of changes. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So we basically took a lot of it was already on the payment schedule item or on the order product. Right. We just kind of had this bridge object that stored a little bit of data that was taking up about 7% of data because there's a lot of duplicate stuff. So what we did is mapped what was missing. Want to make sure that that works as expected. You're not going to have any data loss going forward. And then once we know that that's in a spot where it's good, we'll remove it so that no code is writing to it. And then once we're safe there, we'll backfill your data for wherever it needs to go so you can still report on what you need. And then we'll basically delete it all out once we get the go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you for the stages. Yeah, the stages of that's very helpful. So appreciate it. I have some other ones, but in case anyone else has questions as well. Don't want to take up all the time. Sorry.
I'll give them 3 seconds and then go ahead. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead.
Like an auction. And this is maybe like a very basic question, but on the contact, prompt form, like class list, printouts, any of those forms, when you're pulling the email field, is that pulling the email field from the contact that is registered, or is it pulling the primary contact's email from the account?
It depends. It should be pulling your contacts email, provided there is one.
Right.
If not, we do look up in some scenarios to the primary. But whenever we usually send emails, it's going to the primary contact.
Okay.
And then there's one other caveat. I'll let Rachel speak to it, but when you do the formatting, formatted view, you can select, you can, on a template, you can select which email to use. Is that correct?
Yeah, so if you do, you basically explained it, but if you do custom prompt group styling,
Right.
to have those like the fancier kind of formatted forms, you can choose which email you want to pull, if you want to pull the contact or the account or the
Perfect.
primary. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Going once, going twice. It's all yours, Caitlin. Any other questions?
I did have one more question. I'm so sorry.
Okay, sorry.
On the really exciting file uploader feature of the ScreenFlow, which is like literally making my life so much easier now that I know that that exists. You said it's in beta.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice on using, like, do you recommend like ideally waiting it for it to be out of beta before we start using it all? Our use cases for just internally for staff on a ScreenFlow, so I'm not sure if that changes anything.
Yeah, I mean, does anyone else from TechShare want to speak to that, or do you want me to? Going once, going twice, I'll go.
My advice would be go ahead and start using it in Sandbox. If you're comfortable with it, it's internal only, you're probably okay to use it in production.
They tend not to go, when they go from beta to general availability, they tend not to remove functionality or change drastically how it works. They usually add new things that they learned from the beta. I've never seen them say, oh, well, we got to remove that piece of functionality and then you end up at a loss. I don't think that would happen to you, especially in this scenario. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That was all my questions. Very much appreciate it. This is a helpful walkthrough.
Yeah, absolutely. And
The other thing, oh, sorry, I was just going to add, sometimes they keep things in beta for a while. If you search some of the Salesforce like forums, they'll kind of tell you like, this has been in beta, it's pretty solid, we're expecting it like to be released at any point in time. You can sometimes get that inside kind of info, because there's been pieces that we've been using in beta for a while and we're like, it's been in beta for 2 years, like nothing's changed. So sometimes on the forums you'll find like, this is the only thing we noticed didn't work, or this is working perfectly, we imagine it'll be released.
Okay,
to Rachel's point, by putting in your own comments or going to that's how it gets decided to go to general availability. The more votes, the better. So you should, if you're planning on using it, vote for it.
perfect.
Any other questions? Anyone or any topics? Tyrone.
Hey, you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I just had a question just regarding like, so I know with AI tools and whatnot that often a big concern is regarding like handling sensitive member information and data surrounding that. So I was just wondering if you might have any insight onto how they plan on handling that sort of thing.
Rachel, do you want to take that, or would you
Yeah,
like
I can go.
Yeah.
So Matthew and I yesterday had the exact same concern in Toronto. And one of the things they're doing is you can explicitly state what you don't want it to disclose, or what you don't want it to use as a reference point. So when they talk about how you implement, you think a lot about what do you need it to do, what actions do you want, and then step 4 is what should it absolutely not be doing. And you can kind of specify like, don't use these records, don't use this, don't go out to this source. So they put in a lot of constraints. It's just a matter of making sure they're implemented, should you and when we go live with it.
Do you mind if I add 2 things?
Yeah, go.
I wasn't as convinced as you at the answer the lady gave us. But, she was explaining to us, because we had the same concern. We actually saw incorrect data coming out of a beta we did. And she was explaining it was because it was it was in beta, like it was a pilot and it was generating it, but that wouldn't happen normally. So what I wanted to share is just 2 more things. You can control what data you pull in because you have to point it to the data cloud data. So that's number 1. The second is they do have, which I haven't read up a lot on, but they do have a governance add-on for insurance agencies, banks, things like that, where they actually have regulations around this. And I saw that announcement, but I haven't like dove into that. So I don't know the exact answer, Tyrone, on that, but I do know that there's more even if you need to control it. So prove that you're not showing data from outside of your four walls. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Any other, I mean, we could talk about what Tyrone asked quite a bit, but because there's the whole framework on it, but we won't get into bore everyone with that. But any other questions, guys? Any questions about Agentforce? Agentforce is exciting. It's also scary, but it is very exciting. It'll be interesting to see how it's used.
I actually have one more question
Mm-hmm.
on Agentforce. So like I know this would be a later down the line type of thing, but I was wondering if they may, when you were kind of learning about it, if they may have addressed like when you run into a scenario where the agent can't resolve an issue or isn't able to come up with an answer, like how seamless that handoff to human staff would look like, or like how that could be how that's going to look.
Yeah, there's a default mechanism to transfer to human, and it's interesting. Obviously this kind of assumes you have a human to transfer to, but you can create cases out of it. You can, pass it off and then batch it later. But yeah, it's fairly seamless, first of all. And second of all, remember Rachel mentioned that you can start to put in, do not answer questions about salary. Do not answer questions about our take in the Middle East, whatever it might be, right? So you can start to put in what not to answer and how you want to reply when someone asks a controversial question or a question that you should not answer. So you can control that. I think Adam mentioned this to me. I apologize if I'm misquoting you, Adam, but the one comment, Adam and I were talking about this yesterday because I saw him at the Agentforce, and the only thing I would like to see, and I think it was Adam mentioned it to me, is that those restrictions should really be in a separate area. It's really in the main instruction area, and we thought maybe it should just be in a separate area of, this is specifically what not to do. Like, what I mean? Like, let us separate these. But it is in a main instruction area where you can start to give it things not only to do, but not to do. Ella.
Hi, everyone. I got distracted in the middle of this call, so if you covered it, I do apologize for asking. But I was in another Salesforce call earlier where they talked about an agent where internally you can ask, how can I do this in Salesforce? And it'll give you instructions on how to do it. Are you planning on doing something like that for Avocado, like putting Andrew's manual into the AI bot, and like the us asking questions to the AI bot, like, how do I create this adjustment book, and then it'll give us the answer?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the short answer. The short answer is, you can create an agent really quick. You can point it at any data source you want to create it at. So you can point it at Wikipedia and say, answer me these questions. That's an external example, but you can also point it at anything. So yes, this is the short answer. We saw some really cool demos yesterday of coaching. One of the things I didn't mention in the Agentforce is one of the release enhancements is voice. So they literally showed a demonstration where, as a sales agent, I literally practice my pitch to Agentforce. It is intelligent about who I'm giving this pitch to, and coaches you, and it's pretty good actually. Coaches you saying, "Oh, you might not want to say that because you're talking to Ella at Dallas JCC, and this is the reason why." They get very interesting, very, very powerful. So, short answer is yes. That is exactly what we would look to do, but there's so much more that it could do. Like, if you think about how we tie it to the customer, I know you're our customer, your customer. How do we tie it to your customer and help you with your customer?
I'm just being selfish at the moment. I'm thinking about myself.
You're not selfish. I know that about you. Yeah, so that is exactly a good use case. The only challenge is obviously the pricing. And we just have to figure out what that looks like. We use quite a few different AIs, not just within Salesforce, but also outside. From everything from, we use AI agents to analyze how we do when we answer your question, things like that. And it's really, it's not limited to Agentforce. I'm not trying to say you should look at external solutions, but it's probably going to be a combination of a bunch of things, depending on price, depending on availability, depending on a whole bunch of things.
It
has to be an ROI.
Yeah, it does take a lot of time to teach the bot what you want to say. Like, we have a bot on our website, and like, we're doing Q&As, and like, yes, it scans our website, but like, there's so many other things that we have to teach them to be able to answer our members.
So that's a little bit of a difference between a normal bot and an agentic bot. You should see that you don't have to. Like with Agentforce, it's quite impressive. But love to, we should do a demo of that shortly, very shortly. Adam, you had your hand up?
Yeah, really just to add to Ella's comment, and one of the things I found interesting at the Agentforce event yesterday is Salesforce admits flatly they're finding it more efficient to use AI to train AI than to have the humans train the AI. So I think that's part of the promise, if it lands properly, is that the Agentforce bot out of the box will help you build your Agentforce bot and test it, which is far more efficient than you trying to come up with your list of 1,000 questions and then not anticipating the first question every customer is going to ask it.
Yeah, it's pretty eerie how accurate all this is, and it really does help enhance our positions, right? So really, we got to be looking at this. It's going to help us be better at what we do. Awesome. Any other thoughts on Timron?
Yeah, just one more like overarching question. So like, I don't know exactly how this will be intended to be utilized when we're talking about actual member interaction and customer interaction with it. But like, as we know, like, as far as I understand, the YMCA is built on like personal relationships and that community connection. So like, obviously, I don't know exactly how to formulate this question, but I think you see where I'm getting at is like, can you just touch on like how you might want to kind of carry forward that without allowing it to kind of replace that, enhance that human-centered experience that's the core, and maybe touch on some safeguards to ensure that we're using it to strengthen that rather than, create barriers between staff and members,
Yeah, absolutely.
If you kind of see where I'm getting at.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. So, right now we have a portal, and that portal allows you to take actions. And we have Avocado menu for staff, and it allows you to take actions. Those actions, like when you buy a membership, when you upgrade your membership, when you hold your membership, when you all the things that we can do, then there's a lot of them, right? Registering, updating my email, adding a new child, whatever it might be. Those are all actions. And the portal is very feature rich, very action rich. It allows you to do a lot of things. So all that code that we've written is all in Salesforce. It's all standard Salesforce code. So what we're looking at doing is saying, okay, really our interface is the portal right now. And a lot of people don't like using a portal. I'll give you a good example. I use Bell for my internet. I can go to bell.com and I can browse their site and do everything I want to do. But what I normally do is I go to their agent, I go to bell.com, go right to the agent and say, I'd like to upgrade to 100 meg, and it does it for me rather than me going and doing it. So basically that's the difference. It becomes the interface and becomes a human language that they're going to ask us to do something, and then it's going to take those same actions. In some cases, it might just send us to the portal, right to the point where we have to click, yes, I approve this. Or in other cases, it might just do it for you. And really it's about what we decide to do first, or, you know, where the ROI is for this. Oh, we're doing 1,000 holds a month. I'm using a fictitious 1,000 holds, and we can update the hold interface to make it simpler and better and easier. Or we can just use something like an agent, which allows them to just say, hold my membership till next Thursday. I'm sorry, Mr. Richard, you're not able to because of this, or yes, no problem, it's on hold now, you know, whatever it might be. So I hope that answered you, Tyrone, a little bit.
No, that definitely, that I think it'll have to be a continuing conversation, because I imagine this being a common concern as we move forward with it. But yeah,
the security piece, you know, I keep wanting to go into it, but it's you know, there is a whole trust component that is a little technical to get into right now, but it's very all the pieces that you're worried about are there to deal with. They just have to we have to make sure that we're architecting it correctly to use those Salesforce pieces. Caitlin, you had your hand up?
Actually, like a bit of a response to Tyrone's as well, just because I like literally jotted something down as we were going through the initial, in terms of the example you gave of like the employee internal use of it, where it's like, hey, this customer is like looking for some insight on something to do, and it kind of goes and looks at their previous interests and offers something. And I actually like literally wrote down in my notes here, Y-Way invite, because I know a lot of us Ys have this new Y-Way like initiative for interacting with customers, and part of that is like providing invites to other opportunities or like marking milestones and things like that. And I think specifically around that invites piece, having that internal employee one where you can kind of ask questions to help give more meaningful insight, because right now you can get that data if you're a customer service staff, but you also have a customer right in front of you while you're trying to click through the back end and try to like find and see what they're right, or not the back end, I guess they do it through the front end, I just remember the back end, but like it's hard to do that when the customer is right in front of you, whereas having a like an agent force there that you can ask to help kind of do that labor for you while you interact with the customer, I think could be a really interesting opportunity on that side of things.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm sure we've all heard they're very negative stories, but I'm still going to share it. You know, the individual taking an interview where the interview questions are being fed into a bot, just like Agentforce, an AI agent, and it's telling them exactly what to say that this person that's interviewing them wants the answer to be. Now, I'm not suggesting we do that to that degree, but that's interesting because that's happening right now. That's the world we're living in right now. It's very interesting. It's happening more batch, like, you know, most people that get an email now, AI is suggesting what you say back almost every time. So that's an interesting thing if you can deal with it interactively while they're standing in front of you. I think that's where the voice feature is coming from with Agentforce. Rachel?
I just wanted to add one thing to Caitlin and both yours and Tyrone's point. If you have a framework of how you want it to respond with this new one, you can actually point it to that framework as well. So if you want to say, here's the Y-Way PDF of what we tell our staff to do, you can point your agent to say, when you're doing these actions, take into consideration, like, this is our staff process. And they did talk a lot about how, it's going to sound terrible, but how to make your robots sound more human. So by basically saying, like, respond with empathy, so that it doesn't feel like very chatbot-ish, it feels like very natural conversation, which again is getting more into that agentic AI, right? You're getting more conversational, less, I pre-typed this response and it's pushing it through. So they do allow you to pull from a lot of sources that aren't necessarily just Salesforce. And they said that can literally be like an FAQ of, here's how we want staff to respond to a call. The other piece that they did say too, in terms of not losing the human component, is it frees up the time for your actual humans, right? So you're getting those repetitive, I don't know how to change my phone number tasks out of the way so that you can deal with your more like complicated refund type of situations. So that's the other piece too, where, and it's 24/7, right? I want to cancel my membership at 2:30 in the morning. Getting a bot saying a staff will assist you with this in the morning is going to be a more frustrating experience, then yeah, no problem. I can handle that for you right now. Right.
More important,
so-
I want to buy a membership at 2 in the morning, not cancel. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, ideally, why? But
Sorry. Yeah, it's interesting when we the demo that me and Rachel sat through, they didn't want us using the keyboard. How obvious was that?
yeah, and they wanted us talking.
They wanted us to tell the agent how to create the agent. Yeah, it was very interesting. Yeah, that was like the big one to me because I kept going to the computer, right? And they're like, no, just tell them what you want to do. Yeah, and that was to set up an agent. That was the weird thing. Yeah.
Yeah, if you go back one slide, Matthew, I think. Maybe it's not on here, but their GA announcement for August was more of that, like, tell your agent how to create an agent,
Yeah.
which is what Matthew and I were prototyping, and talk to it and say, I want to create an agent that looks up all the registration records for a contact so that I can suggest better programming. And it'll give you, here's the actions we think you should take. Here's the constraints we think you should put in. Is there anything you want to change? Yes or no? And then you can kind of just continue to tweak it through there. So that's pretty incredible. It'll be AI, creating AI with the guise of a human intervening.
Excellent. We're still here, so you can always ask more questions, guys. But anyone who wants to leave, don't feel you have to stick around. We're looking forward to Agentforce and seeing it mature. I don't think it was quite ready, and I think it's getting there now. So we'll see what the ROI is and what the main low-hanging fruit is, and we'll take action and have a really good discussion about it.
This was super exciting. It's fun to see all of this coming together. So thank you guys for putting this little presentation together, and good to see everyone.
Yes, you too.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.